Alrighty, here we are, and it's time to get started. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through one of my upper body training sessions. Now, I got a lot of great feedback after the last video where I decided to make some longer form content. In last video, I walked you through some of my training for running, where specifically we were working on the calves and soleus. So today we're going to work on some upper body stuff, and this is going to be totally unscripted. It's going to be unedited, and I just want to give you guys a preview into what I'm doing in my own training, what I'm learning, the mistakes I'm making, the things I'm experimenting with, exploring with. And so this is raw, this is uncut, this is real. And what we're going to be doing today is what I call straight arm strength. Now, most people, when they walk in the gym and they're going to do upper body, say today's chest day because it's Monday, right? International Chest Mondays. And that's fine. That would be more a golden era bodybuilding, chest and tris, back and bis. Now, once the We Train Movements Not Muscle crew came around, it became, well, we don't train chest, we train pushing. And so we need to do our upper body pushes and pulls. And then they categorized that by let's do some vertical pulling or some horizontal pushing. And that's totally fine. I'm not here to argue against that. But in my own training, I like to do a lot of calisthenics work. I really enjoy training gymnastic style upper body strength. And I love calisthenics. I love human flags, front levers, ring dips. I do most of my upper body training off the rings because that's just what I like. Those are my goals. I don't hate barbells. I don't hate machines. I use all that stuff. But my true, I don't know if it's a passion. I just love hitting my upper body with calisthenics. So today's session is based on how gymnasts go about upper body training. So in upper body, training in the gymnastics world, you're generally going to have what's called bent arm strength days, where you're doing all your normal, your dips, your pull-ups. And then since part of gymnastics, especially in the men's category, is the levers, which would be the front lever, the Maltese, the planche, the back lever, they have to do straight arm specific training. And we know strength is specific, right, to the degree and angle you train it at. So what I've found is straight arm exercises where you do planches. Obviously, I'm not doing iron crosses right now. Actually, you'll hear about I tweaked my coracobrachialis. When it comes to those straight arm strength exercises, you can be a monster at bent arm pressing. And there will be some carryover. Of course, strength, absolute strength can be carried over, but strength is specific. And I'll tell you, there's tons of strong dudes and gals out there who can do muscle ups and all that, but they can't hold a front lever or back lever. So we're gonna start off by heading into a little bit of extension. I'm gonna move the camera around. Remember, this is just completely unedited, unplanned, unscripted. We're gonna head into extension first, so shoulder extension out back. Now, the hardest part about straight arm strength is not just how much load you're experiencing, but how much load is going into the elbow joint. So I find that you can't progress as quickly in your straight arm exercises just due to the load on the elbow joint. So we're gonna do a little bit of a check-in. Like I mentioned earlier, I actually was doing some kind of pseudo iron cross work, and I really janked my coracobrachialis. That's a muscle that runs right alongside the biceps. The coracoprocess is right here at the front of the shoulder. It attaches down onto the humerus, so it kind of goes from there to there. Its job is to assist with shoulder flexion and then shoulder adduction. So anytime you bring the shoulder back into abduction and extension, I'm gonna feel that. So I janked that a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. So I've got some tools here. Now I'm going to do my extension check-in with the strictest form. And when it comes to the straight arm strength world, I find that this is as much of an exercise that I can train as it is a check-in. So I'm gonna take an ab wheel. You can do this theoretically off a barbell, and we're going to see how we feel. Now, with anything, I find it takes a while to warm up just because of how intense the stretches are, especially on the bicep and the front of the shoulder. So we're gonna do a check-in where I'm going to put my palms facing back towards me, and then I'm going to slowly extend the elbows. Now, when we do straight arm strength work, we're gonna get into that terminal extension But I'm gonna go here. Obviously, that's as close as I can get my hands. And then I'm going to do a check-in where I rock out. This is my cold mobility, which is how far can I get with no warm-up? And to be honest, I haven't been doing a ton of straight arm strength stuff recently. And it's kind of like handstand practice. You know, even if you're good at handstands, if you take like a 3-month break, your handstands get pretty rusty. Now, it can come back quick. But right now, I haven't been doing a ton of straight arm lever work, and I'm gonna bring it back in my program. So this is just a check-in, and that right there is what I call horrendous ugly, and it doesn't feel great. Now, I'm more limited by that coracobrachialis injury on the left. I can go further, but that's my cold mobility, meaning where can I get reasonably without a warm-up? So that just shows you that when it comes to shoulder extension, which is what we need for deep dips, bench presses, that very few people train it. People go into extension when they do a bench press or a pull-up, but that's why I love gymnastics. Gymnastics isn't perfect, but with gymnastics, they teach to balance out the shoulder. You need to do lots of extension work with your arm behind your back. And doing that with a straight arm is going to resolve a lot of issues that I see in people's shoulders. So that is my terrible trash extension. And I promise my extension's better than that. But like anything, just because you get better at bent arm pressing and pulling exercise doesn't mean your straight arm is getting better. In fact, that you're gonna lose that quicker. You're gonna lose that range of motion far quicker because the moment arm's longer, the stretch on the tissue is more intense. So our goal now is to improve extension, right, and tolerance. So I'm going to take my cable, I'm going to do what looks like a behind the back version of what we just did. And the great thing about this is called the Anchor cable system. I bought this mainly to demo videos. It's a cool piece of equipment where you can attach it on almost like a TRX. You can wrap it around a pole, a post. If you have a squat rack, you can actually put it through like a pin. This cable machine is quite expensive. Like for what it allows you to do, it's actually reasonably priced. You know, I think it was like $800, which sounds like a lot, but if you think about what it allows you to do in a garage gym setup like this, it's great. Now, I will say the one thing is, because I'm so used to regular cable stacks, especially when it's got multiple pulleys, this has that little bit of just that inconsistent tension, so it does drive me crazy. Like you're gonna get a lot of resistance in your initial pull and that kind of disappears quick. Now the great thing is we'll see that you can attach more weights and it is portable. So I think what is the other one that, there's like this new cable one that's way more expensive this. I think it's like called Beyond Power Voltra. It's probably like $4,000. That one probably doesn't have the same delay and lag as this. A lot of people ask me like, hey, is this Anchor cable worth it? Not the standard version. The standard version feels just, I do not think the standard version pulls and feels well. This is the Pro version, so it is a little bit more, and it is worth getting if you are going to get this. So this is the Anchor, and the great thing you can see that you can just twist to attach more weight. So it is a genius design, and it's very convenient. It's just like anything. It works for a garage gym. It works if you're, on the road. I've seen people take this to parks, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, can you imagine that you go to a park and you take like a cable system? I mean, like I get it, but bro, just grab a TRX and that's going to accomplish most of the same thing. So we're going to go behind the back, and we're just going to start to groove that extension with some long duration. So I'm going to start nice and simple. Now, when it comes to straight arm work, if I've got my palms facing towards my butt, that's going to be a little bit of biasing external rotation. And then if I flip my palms the other direction, I'm putting the shoulders into a little bit of internal. That's going to hit differently, so we're going to train both angles. The more extreme is where your palms are facing. So I'm going to start off super light. I'm going to go here to a tall kneeling position. Now this is not aggressive to start. So we're going to go here. We're going to do a little bit of ISO. ISO is kind of eccentric, so you could call it EQI, eccentric quasi-ISO. I know some people hate that term because they're like, oh, are you trying to do an eccentric or ISO? The answer is kind of both. So I'm here, just laying the cable. Boom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cable pull me into the stretch, and then I'm going to pull in just a little bit to my back. That feels so good when you pull in right there. And notice how no one's doing this. Whenever we do any work from extension, it's like a ring dip, it's a bench press. Boom. I love this. This exercise just feels so good. And down. Now, actually, the tension disappears quite a bit. It's amazing. You can handle a lot of force in this position. But as I was mentioning earlier, it's a lot of stress on the elbow. It's a lot of stress on the front delt and the pec minor, but mainly the bicep and elbow. So this is one where Drake was right. It goes 0 to 100 real quick. And I can't describe how you need to have patience. The number one way to progress your straight arm work is by exercising restraint, because you can get greedy. And most of the gains we're looking at are more connective tissue based, especially at the elbow. So we're gonna add some weight here. These come with little 5 and 10 pound weights, and then they just clip on. They're magnetic. Really easy, simple design. Now, we're going to be doing this exercise, and then I'm gonna start to get some opposite side work. So when it comes to extension, especially straight arm, I always forget which side these are supposed to go on. Looks like I've never used it before. Okay, come on. There we go. All right, so when we're doing extension work where we're bringing our arm behind our back, we need to have the ability to get length in the front side, the bicep, the delt, the pec, coraco. But on the back side, we need our tricep and the posterior delt and all that business on the back side of the shoulder to shorten actively and contract. And you should get really crampy here. So we're gonna hit another round. Most awkward thing is here. So boom, down. Now, of course, ideally, this is leading to what I'm going to do on the rings in a few weeks. But I think a lot of people jump right into ring work, which is phenomenal. I want people to get to use the gymnastics rings. And I think that the gymnastics rings are some of the best ways to go about business when it comes to the upper body. But there is so much you can do with cables and dumbbells and kettlebells before you get to the rings to give your elbows, your shoulders the capacity to load. So now I'm in the stretch. Now I am actively resisting the stretch a little bit here. So I am doing a little bit of a light iso. And then boom. You see how that resistance kind of goes away instantly. It's not the end of the world. Now I can turn a little bit to one side if I want to hit a little bit others. Big stretch. This is going to mimic a skin the cat or German hang. I'm going to resist in that end range and then pull. Nothing fancy. Very simple. And if you do consistent extension work, and I mean proper extension work, which is, this is similar to skin the cat. And if you look, my arms and shoulders are almost at 90 degrees. And one of the reasons why people run into issues when it comes to the dip, right? And I think the dip is the best. The dip is the squat of the upper body. It allows you to do more with more, but people just get absolutely pummeled in their anterior delt. And even though it's training the anterior delt, if you think, when I go down into dip, of course with bent arms, I'm going to share the load between the bicep, shoulder, pec, and the back. As I go down, to actually get my chest to the rings or bar, I do need to get roughly close to 90 or somewhere between like 80 and 110. Now, most people are going to feel extreme tension, tightness, pain, and problems when it comes to straight arm strength, maybe about like 45 degrees to 60. I'm just making up numbers because it doesn't really matter. The whole point I'm saying is that your straight arm strength or your straight arm range is going to reveal a lot more about your true range of motion than bent arm. I can't tell you how many people will go into a dip and they will get a nice full range of motion and they're still having problems. And then you say, show me your straight arm strength or show me your straight arm stretch. and they can barely tolerate halfway. So I found it's a better measure of true range of motion, of honest strength, and of the capacity of your shoulder to actually do stuff. So I've seen straight arm strength make bent arm strength better, but I don't see as much in the return. It's not that doing bent arm exercises won't carry over to straight arm, but I find it's more the opposite. It's kind of like cycling. Cycling can make your running better, but running doesn't really make your cycling better. I know some people disagree with me on that, but I think it's totally true. Okay, so now we're gonna start to work the backside triceps. So I'm just gonna grab some dumbbells here. I could change the camera angle, but it's all good. So we're gonna start to do some extension lift-offs, okay? And what we're going to do here is I'm going to go into that same position. I'm going to go nice and low. I'm going to use my stall bars. You can tell this is not fancy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to lift off. It's not going to be very far. I'm going to attempt to drive up. Boom. Now, of course, as I get stronger or as I want to challenge this more, I will go up another rung and drive up. I'm trying to drive up, trying to break my arm through. It's kind of a overcoming ISO. Now, people would say, why don't you just do an overcoming ISO with no weight? I find that you can still hold back a little bit or sandbag the overcoming ISO. If you have weight when you do an overcoming ISO, it's very hard to sandbag. Now, we're gonna go here. Now, I don't know what I do with this other arm. It's kind of one where I need to create a little bit of a wedge. And the big thing is that as I get heavier or higher, I don't want to have a bent elbow. I want completely straight, and then I want to attack this. So 3, 2, I'm gonna have to breathe and brace. 3, 2, 1. And the cool thing about this is I can change the angle, so I can go out wide. So I can go out wide. Gonna get a little bit more of the delt involved. I can go narrow. I can also, notice how I just flipped the palm facing up. I should have more strength here because I have more leverage and internal rotation. Maybe not. Man, I just got mollywopped there. That's good. That shows you that we always want to change the angle to find where we're not getting strength or force put into tissue. You might be strong somewhere, but then you go somewhere else and it's like you've never even trained there. Boom. Okay. All right. Short side. When I'm training my clients, I do this silly thing from, it's kind of like from Remember the Titans, great movie, by the way, with Denzel Washington, one of my favorite actors, where, you know, they are like strong side. But what we do is we go long side, short side, long side, short side. And you'll be surprised. You'll be amazed how much these short range liftoffs reveal about your extension strength. Flipping the palm over. It's kind of like deadlifts for your tricep. These should be hard. Okay, sweet. All right, now we're back. So just running these back and forth, this is such a fantastic superset. And the more I'm able to express that short side force, the more I'm going to be able to tolerate the stretch. So we're back here. Notice I'm not rushing up in weight. You know, over the next few weeks, I'll slowly increase the weight, but there's going to be plenty of stretch to come. Always dancing back and forth. I like to do extension first because I find if I do shoulder flexion to start the workout, there's nothing wrong with it. Kind of just, your shoulders start to lock up because active shoulder extension is so freaking hard. Just, we all suck at active shoulder flexion. I find like if I do that at the beginning of straight arm strength day, it just mollywops me. So I'm here. Now, as I get more range of motion, I can think about externally rotating or trying to show my armpits off. That's going to maximize that. And then I can flex down. Notice I can pull to my hips, or I can kind of hit isos in various positions. So check this out. I pull a quarter of the way and then hold. Feels really freaking good. Pull halfway, hold. Pull 3/4, hold to the butt and hold. And then slowly wind up. That's another way you can do this. Quarter of the way. Just exploring, seeing if I find something different. Keep the arms long, so as you pull, your arms want to bend. Keep your arms long. Pull, pull, and all the way up. All the way up. Okay, awesome. We're going to hit another round of the triceps. Now, single arm is great. Double arm's fine. It doesn't matter. Going both at the same time is absolutely nasty because you can't brace as much. So we're going to go back and notice how the closer we'd be able to lift off at 90, the better your shoulder is going to feel. I know there's no scientific study that says that, but let's be honest, it's simple math. If my shoulder goes to 90, the closer I can get my shoulder to 90, the better it's going to feel at 90, right? If you're dipping and you can barely hit 5 to 10 degrees, there's nothing wrong with that. But just in my experience, as I get people closer to 90, the happier their shoulder feels. What a simple and wild concept. But there's no study that shows that end range of motion strength training, right? It's like, come on. There's no study that shows the tooth fairy doesn't exist, right? Sometimes it's just common sense. So I'm here. Now I go both over. And I'm just trying to maximally contract. The weights force me to. So I'm here, I'm not going to get much range of motion at all. Oh man, that's brutal. Almost got a cramp in the tricep there. Cool. All right, let's go one more round. Gonna increase the weight on here. Where's my other ones? Oh, here we are. Yeah. Straight arm strength, it's freaking awesome. You get crazy strong off it too. And your shoulders feel really good. Yeah, nothing else to add there. Okay, one last round here. Now, notice how I could even just stand here. I can go in a lunge position, whatever feels best. Maximize that stretch. I find here I just can get more range of motion. And then, ooh, that's getting nice and toasty. At any point I can pause and do a yielding iso, so I love doing that here where I'm resisting. It's almost like stopping off at different floors of the hotel. Big stretch, big stretch, big stretch, and big contract, big contract. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna flip my palms so I hit a different angle. Always be constant. The shoulder has the most range of motion of any joint in the body, so train it with the most angles. Okay, here. Oh, these yielding isos feel so good where I'm kind of stopping off at different levels, holding the iso, and then when I feel like I need to give into the stretch, I give into the stretch a little bit further. Okay, awesome. Now, we know biological changes take longer than 5 minutes. They take longer than 5 weeks. They take 5 months, 10 months. So when I'm checking back in with my first exercise, of course, I'm going to be way further. That's obvious. I've warmed up. I've also been working on shoulder extension. But I think that mentally it helps, because then you see how when you do these weird exercises, it will improve your range of motion. So it's reminding you that all this stuff is going to make your shoulders move better, but it's also checked to see if you are moving the needle, because sometimes with a shoulder and shoulder extension, normally 99 times out of 100, you're gonna start super tight, and then after like 10 minutes, you're gonna be so much further. But with other areas like the hip or the ankle, sometimes you might do a superset of an exercise or exercises that is supposed to move the needle, and you come to check and you're not any further. That's okay, but that's a feedback loop. So if after 3 to 4 rounds, there's no change in range of motion, number one, you might need more time, meaning another workout or two before you see progress. Number two, you might need to change the exercise stuff. Or number three, you might need to change the volume, intensity, or density of those particular exercises. So I'm gonna go and check back in, and then we're going to kind of progress this to more, so we've been doing extension, then we're gonna kind of progress straight arm into more abduction, adduction at 90 degrees. I have no game plan today. All the sets and reps, I'm just doing this all by feel. The goal today, the number one thing is to keep the goal. And when I'm training, I have the most important thing is the goal, which is my intent. So my intent with this session is to train straight arm strength, and it's more range focused, even though there's strength, right? You can't have one without the other. But in this session, I'm just trying to train as many angles of straight arm strength as possible. So we're here. I'm going to check back in, and obviously I should see that I'm way less terrible. But since I'm just bringing back my straight arm strength game, I've done front levers, I've done planches, I've done human flags, so I'm very familiar and experienced in the straight arm world. But I feel really rusty right now, so I'm not going to force my limits. I'm going to let them move for myself. And you can see how. Now, I could go further, but my ab wheel is actually pulling apart. Target. I think I got this like 10 years ago at Target. Okay, that's great. Remember, you're going to have a daily limit of how much you can increase. So, could I do another couple rounds here? Yeah, probably. But does that look like I caused a stimulus and I got what I needed to out of that extension work? 100%. So let's carry on here. I'm going to now go to the bench, and we're going to work on a little bit more of straight arm strength, a little bit higher up. Now it's going to still have a similar theme. So we're going to work on that short side. I'm going to grab, I think this is my kettlebell. We got 15 pounds here. So we are going to go, we're working on just pure extension there. Now we're going to still kind of be trying to fight for extension, but we're going to get up into this range. Let's call this 0 to 90 degrees. We could go a little higher, that's fine. That's more flexion land. Notice how there's not just push and pull. There's these zones of movement, because this is a zone of movement. This is a zone of movement. This is a zone of movement. That's a zone of movement. The shoulder can go everywhere. So we want to train it in as many angles as possible. The flaw of traditional strength training is it's push and pull, push and pull. That leaves out like 50% or more of the shoulder's range. Now, I understand that not everyone is going to need to get into a skin the cat or get into these extreme ranges. But the whole point is, for most people, the shoulder thrives on variability, which other joints do too. But compared to like the knee joint, the degrees of freedom is extreme in the shoulders. So I find shoulders get happy when you give them lots of options. It's like a picky eater. The shoulders are very picky, and that's why they're cranky all the time. If you have a picky eater and you go to a place like Golden Corral, By the way, when is the last time you've been to a Golden Corral? Probably been a hot minute. It's probably a fun experience if you have never gone. All you can eat buffet. Dude, Golden Corral is a magic place. Golden Corral or Casa Bonita in Denver. I'm from Colorado, so Casa Bonita is like legendary. I haven't been there since they've apparently redone it, which is crazy. They put in so much money, like millions of dollars. That thing used to be a rat hole. I hope it's still a rat hole because there was something fun about knowing that you're going to get like diarrhea or your food had salmonella in it, because you're going to still watch the cave divers and the magic show. And I bet you those magicians, half of them had to have been pedophiles. But you wanted to go see the show. You wanted to get those nasty paper bag chips. Those chips had to have been made of cardboard. Chips were made of cardboard. Food probably had salmonella and was probably not cooked properly. Magicians were probably pedophiles. You played hide and seek in the caves. Casa Bonita was the best. So the point I'm making is if someone's picky and you give them a lot of options, they're going to find something that they like. If like the knee has rotation, and I'm not saying that the knee doesn't thrive off variability. The knee is an intensity joint. What I mean by that is you can just slam the quads, slam the hamstrings, and the knees tend to get happy. That's why people are struggling with patellar tendinopathies. One of the main goals is just hammer the quads, hammer the quads, hammer the quads. The shoulder, since it's a little bit picky, really loves when you give it options. And just traditional strength training doesn't give it many options. Even the rehab. So rehab actually has some good ideas that when your shoulder's pissed, maybe do some rotational stuff. But then once again, they pick one angle and they do drills here. Okay, this is great. That's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that we need to make sure that we're constantly challenging in that. And one of the reasons I think that focusing on straight arm strength and bent arm strength is going to get you there. So for this next one, we're going to be doing a little bit of a dynamic ISO where it looks like I'm making a snow angel. I'm going to go through like 0 to 90 degrees. And the kettlebell is awesome because it's going to create that torque, which I have to resist. 15 pounds, I think, is my lightest kettlebell. Yeah, I think so. So that's going to be quite the fight. And I'm going to set up on this bench like a little bit of a sea turtle. This is going to absolutely clap. I don't think I have a lighter kettlebell than this. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to try to survive as long as possible. I'm going to wedge myself here so I have something to brace. If not, it's just going to be a nightmare. I find doing 2 arms at the same time is just way too hard. So I'm going to brace. I'm going to kind of be cheating a little bit. I'm only going to go through 90 degrees and then down here, and I'm going to survive as long as I can. This will be brutal. My goal is to try to move at a consistent pace and not speed, even though it's going to happen. I'm going to keep going until I feel like the fight's gone. Awesome. Okay. Switching sides. Freaking great. Now, I'm not going to do this right now. That exercise pairs so well with a standard reverse fly, whether that's off a machine or off the TRX. Phenomenal combo. I would do this first and then right into the other. Get kind of a really good combo there. So we're here. All right. Create the wedge. This is a battle. This is a fight. Grabbing the kettlebell. I instead of lifting it with a straight arm, press it out. It's going to feel better. Okay. You'll be amazed how weak you are. Posterior shoulder. Lift from the shoulder, not just from the wrist. Boom. It's so tempting to put your mind, whenever we do weight training, your brain is going to latch on to the wrist, which if you're doing grip work is totally fine. And I'm not saying if You hold the weight and think about your wrist, your shoulder's not working. But instead of thinking lift the weight to work the shoulder, think lift your shoulder to work the weight. It's a little bit of a, it almost sounds like something Yoda would say. Lift the shoulder to work the weight, you must. Trust me. Think about lifting your shoulder and put your mind on the muscle you're working. That has been known in bodybuilding for decades, that you should think about the working muscle. I find that people stop thinking about the muscle they're trying to work and start counting. Don't think. For this exercise, survive as long as possible. Now, if you can only make it like 5 to 10 seconds, it's a little bit too heavy. If you go 60 seconds and you're not losing the fight, too light. Goldilocks principle is in effect. Now, how many sets do I plan on doing? I almost treat this like a bank robbery. I'm going into the bank, I'm trying to steal as much money as possible, but if I'm there too long, I'm gonna get busted by the cops for being too greedy. So, after that first set, I'm going to say, can I replicate that effort relatively? Because I'm gonna have fatigue in the second set, but you can tell I've been resting. If I try to do that effort again, can I get within 20% of the time or the effort or how long I lasted? If the answer is yes, I'm gonna do a second set, and the answer feels like yes in my head. If I'm like, man, I could only probably make it half the time I made it last. So say in round 1 you make it 50 seconds, and you're like, man, I'm probably only gonna make it 20 seconds. You don't need to do the second set. You already got the gains here. Just go on. It's not that you're gonna hurt yourself, it just means that you're going to increase your recovery time exponentially, and you're not going to get proportional gains. So it's a disproportional increase in the amount of recovery time you're experiencing for the amount of stimulus you're getting. So if I go 50 seconds and then I'm like, yeah, I think I can get close, and then the second set I'm at 40 seconds, that's totally fine. That means we probably got some additional gains and didn't relatively increase our recovery time exponentially. So then after the next set, if I'm like, oh man, yeah, I'm probably only gonna get like half that or less, you get the idea. Most people aren't asking that question. They just see, oh, I'm supposed to do 4 sets. And after set 2, or even after set 1, they got the gains and now they're just increasing recovery time. What we want to do is constantly ask ourselves, how do I continue to progress? How do I continue to progressively overload while spending as little time in recovery as possible? Now, if you're going for a minimal effective dose where you only work out like once or twice a week, that's a different story, because then you gotta juice everything. There are bodybuilders who did that, like Tom Platz would squat every 14 days or like once a month, almost once or twice a month. That's a different story. But for most people, you don't need to be saying, how can I spend more time in recovery? It's about spending less. Okay, set 2. All right. Doesn't have to look a certain way. 3, 2, 1. Slow and consistent. Speed hides need, so don't speed, and don't make your arm shorter. As you fatigue, your arm wants to shorten up. That's the shoulder blade trying to run away from the work. Arm stays long, don't speed. Don't speed. And I can tell you right now, if I tried to do a third set, it would get ugly. And you can see how I can change the angle of my body to last longer. Notice how before I did that second set, I took a couple minutes rest. The goal of strength training is not fatigue. It's stimulation, not annihilation. So most people want to have the sensation of doing a cardio workout in their strength training, which is high heart rate, a burn, fatigue, feeling like you're pushing your limits. Now, when you're doing the work, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be challenging. And of course, you are going to accumulate fatigue, but don't chase it. Fatigue is a byproduct that shows up naturally when you stimulate and do the work. Don't try to just get tired. Now, of course, if you're short, if you don't have much time, get the work done. But I can't tell you enough, when you're strength training, work when you're ready, rest as long as you need. So if you feel like you need to go 7 minutes to get a second set in, that's fine. But use that rule that I said earlier. If you rest like 5 minutes and you're like, I still can't get another set, it's pointless to do that set. You're getting nothing for, like I said, prolonged recovery. Okay, other side is gonna be a double setter today, I can tell. 15 pounds is spicy. Okay, and then at that point I was starting to feel that I was going to stop producing tension on the working muscle. And when you feel like you're no longer keeping the working muscle under tension, the set's over. The goal of hypertrophy work is not the completion of reps. So I don't care how many reps I get. I wasn't counting reps. I wasn't worried about how long I went. I was focused on keeping the muscle under tension for as long as possible. Okay, so now we're gonna flip over and we're gonna start to get some flexion in. So we're gonna work some flexion here, which is gonna be overhead. So actually, I wonder if, okay, so I'm gonna now get in some, a little bit, let's move the camera over here, okay. Cool, so now we're going to transfer to doing some overhead flexion, right? Kind of started back here, working our way here. Now we're gonna work our way overhead. Overhead mobility is going to always be one of the hardest things that we train. People are just horrendously weak here. One of the best things you can do is, if you have horrendous overhead mobility, if you have massive shoulder problems, I'm gonna give you a challenge. For the next 30 days, I want you to accumulate 10 minutes of a bar hang, double arm, thumb over, 10 minutes. Now, it doesn't have to be at once, meaning you might do 10 sets of 1 minute or 20 sets of 30 seconds. And I know for a lot of people that's difficult because you might not have a pull-up bar. If you're at the gym, doesn't matter. I want you to try to accumulate 10 minutes for the next 30 days in a row, consistently. And then watch how much better your shoulder feels. One of the best things we can do. Now, I don't know how much of this is like urban myth versus reality, but I want to believe that it's honest. There was a doctor, I can't remember the name and I can't remember the book. I believe I'm saying this correctly. He was a shoulder surgeon. He got frustrated with how many people were coming in for surgeries that he thought were preventable. So he wrote a book basically saying that you can eliminate almost all your shoulder problems by just hanging from a bar for 10 minutes a day. And it's a very simplistic book. I read it a long time ago, and I think there's a lot of, he's oversimplifying shoulder problems to, oh, well, you just don't hang from a bar. But I found it actually is crazy effective for a lot of people. So we're gonna do bar hangs, right? And when it comes to a bar hang, I tend to say we're not thinking, we're just doing. But just like we saw, one position is not good enough for the shoulder. It wants multiple. So we're gonna do bar hangs wide, we're gonna do them narrow, we're gonna do them crisscross, chin up grip, single arm, it doesn't matter. The answer is the more variations you do, the happier the shoulder gets, and we're just going to passively do this. Now, in the rock climbing world, hanging from a bar, doing hangboard workouts is common, but outside of rock climbing, not a lot of people do bar hangs outside of people training for the military and stuff like that, and I can't express to you how amazing it is just to hang. But it's horrible because it's boring, it's brutal, and you don't have to go to failure. So actually, when you're trying to accumulate volume, which I'm going to do, I'm gonna stop well short of failure. So there are times and places to go to failure when you're doing bar hangs, especially when you're testing, to find out where you're at in space, whether that's a max bodyweight hang or max single. but I like to do about a 5 to 10 minute block for my grip. And I try to do as many variations as possible. And to do that, I need to make sure that I don't blow myself out in the first set or set 2 or set 3. So I'm going to stop right when I start to feel like it gets challenging. That way I can do as many variations as possible. So we're here and we are grip training. So single arm. And the great thing is now that we've had a little bit of time to prepare, my elbow is ready for that straight arm tension. My pec and lat a little bit ready, because straight arm hangs or single arm hangs for most people are pretty challenging. And for a lot of people, it is too difficult. So I'm not counting sets and reps. I like just doing a time block. I don't have a timer on right now for this, but 10 minutes is kind of a sweet spot. If I'm doing a very intensive long session, maybe 20 minutes, quick session 5, I find 10 minutes of work where I just put on the clock, do as many variations as possible. If I do that consistently, generally on a daily basis, it really helps out. Now, there's a time and place to do weighted holds. There's a time and place to do more than 10 minutes. But just in general, exploring the different holds, feeling where the tension is in the shoulder. Notice what we've done today has been very boring, anti-sexy, and a lot of people might have clicked out on this video. If you're still watching, that's freaking awesome. I'm trying to not edit these, make these flashy. I'm not using AI to enhance this. Of course, I'm talking to you guys, so this session is going to take way longer than it should. I could probably knock this out in 15 to 30 minutes if I needed to, but I want to share some thoughts. I want to just walk you guys through what I'm thinking and my thought process. Because the number one thing is, like I said, intent. If you can explain why you're doing something, I'm pretty open to most ideas. And you can see my thought process of this is we're just working from hip to head, and I'm trying to explore all the different angles. So then we're going to go eagle grip, which is internal rotation. Now, I got to be honest, guys. This stall bar setup, I know I've had it in all my videos, and I've had this for like 3 years. I love the eagle hang. It's kind of the Mission Impossible hang from MI2. By the way, I know that Mission Impossible 2 is considered the worst of all the Mission Impossibles. I think the editing of the film was a little bit weird because I think it was directed by John Woo, and he tried to make it a little bit he tried to take a little bit of, I don't even know what the style would be. You know, he tried to embellish a lot in terms of the end fight scenes, but that movie was freaking great. The motorcycle chase scene, the Hans Zimmer score, which was the best. Put on the song Bear Island by Hans Zimmer from Mission Impossible 2 and tell me that doesn't just get you fired up to just sprint as fast as possible. I mean, just the plot was great. The whole Chimera thing kind of hits pretty hard. Just even the opening scene with that rock climbing scene was amazing. Yeah, the end fight, the gun kick, where he kicks the gun and just pops up, that's where it's like, okay, John Woo, you lost the plot here. But I actually think if you rewatch that movie, it's not as terrible as people make it out to be. Right, I even lost my train of thought. So, yep, we're with all this stuff, right? It's constantly hitting our different angles. It's not sexy, right? But this is the work that has to be done consistently and for a long time and progressively overloaded, so you can do all the epic stuff like muscle ups, front levers, human flags, and all that stuff. Because it is challenging. Handstand push-ups, planches, back levers, and all that crazy stuff. Right? As many angles as possible. And I'm not really focused on any particular thing. Just hanging out. But rock climbers will show us that doing this consistently, even if only for a couple minutes, you're going to see massive dividends in your shoulder health and your grip strength, and especially if you change the angle all the time. Oh, that's what I was talking about. I got on a Mission Impossible 2 tangent, and you guys are like, oh, what were you saying about the stall bars? So this is the Gladiator wall from Supples. Supples makes the Bulgarian bags over here, which are amazing. One of my favorite conditioning tools is the Bulgarian bag. So I saw this from Supples, and it looks sturdy. It looked a lot more robust than most stall bar systems. Because when I ran my gym in Denver, I had the Rogue metal ones, which were phenomenal, but man, those things were heavy, and it was a pain in the butt anchoring them to the wall, and I always felt like I was gonna rip, the wall was gonna rip off because of how heavy those metal stall balls were. So I went with these. I actually, gotta be honest, even though I've had these for a few years, I don't like them. It's beautiful. The wood's beautiful, it's well made, it can hold weight. Couple things. Compared to traditional stall bars, the rungs or rings are a little bit thicker than I'd want them to be. I just want them a hair bit smaller. I think that Rogue, whoever created the size of the pull-up bar for Rogue just nailed it. It's not that a wider or thicker rung is bad. It's just, I don't like it as much. The wood is beautiful. It was easy to anchor into the wood, into the studs, but the gaps between these are larger than a traditional stall ball, which kind of sucks. And this first rung starts up pretty high. I wish it started where my foot was a little bit lower. Then when I looked at this online, I was an idiot. I should have measured. I thought this was way higher. I thought this bar would have been closer to the ceiling. So I hate how low this bar is. I wish there was another two more, and then the pull-up bar. Then this would be a lot better, because I can do human flags off this, but it sucks. It sucks because I'm one of those people for human flags. I like my top hand about here. Going here, I have to squat and I have poor leverage and I just don't like it. So I really got this to do human flags off of and to do ab work. And you can see if I'm doing human flags and ab work, I'm already into the ground. And I find personally that if I've got space between me and the ground, I can do more reps. I can do more intense exercise. It just feels right. I hate feeling that sensation of my feet or toes are in the ground, or even on pull-ups, I hate crisscross applesauce. There's nothing that drives me crazier than that. All my pull-up and chin-up records have been off of generally higher bars. So it's not the end of the world, but the Supples Gladiator wall or stall bars, Now, I've got to be honest, yes, it's one of those things where I'm not going to buy a new stall bar and do it because I have access to gyms and all that, but just kind of my thoughts on this. I got it probably if I ever was moving or getting new ones, I would not buy this. I'd get ones that are a little bit higher, closer spacing and all that above. So we're still hanging. Still got plenty of gas left in the tank. I know I've been talking. Remember, I'm stopping well short of failure. Well short, just so I can get more volume in. Rest as needed. You don't need to get a spreadsheet out. You don't need to pull out your training journal and say, I'm going to do 4 by 30 seconds. With grip training, you never know what you're going to get. Some days, you could spend 20 to 30 minutes doing this. Other days, maybe 5 minutes and you're already dead. Especially if you're doing stuff like heavy deadlifts or kettlebell work where you're already challenging your grip, right? So, I know this is probably the most boring part of the video, but this is what I spend time doing, is I spend time actually working on the stuff that's gonna make me better, right? And hanging from a bar this is where you're gonna be at the bottom of every rep of a pull-up or chin-up. And so I want to be a beast here. And just hitting every various angle and boom. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to work on that active shoulder flexion up top. So this is going to be where I'm going to go back to the bench. I'm going to do a little bit of a low trap raise here. So we're going to flip back. I'm going to increase the height of this. one of the muscles that assist. By the way, I got this bench at Walmart. It is absolute a dumpster, but it's fantastic. This thing is so garbage, but it's my garbage. Okay, I think that should be a good angle. Okay, sweet. I'm going to kind of hinge over like an ostrich, and we're going to do a low trap raise. This is an exercise that when you first do it, it feels like, oh, this is stupid, this does nothing. But as you add up the reps, it starts to hit us. So we're going to work on nice straight flexion. I'm going to work on feeling my shoulder blade slide and glide up, up, and away. So letting the shoulder blade go up is what has to happen when we flex our shoulder. And I tend to start these extremely light, and then I like to build my weight up. Of course, we can do it with a kettlebell, so I'm going to start off at 10 pounds. And then I'm going to be here. Let's see if I can, making sure you guys can see me. Okay, perfect. Right? You can tell this is completely unedited. Okay, so I'm going to hinge over. I'm going to be, you have to, if you go quick, you won't feel it, but if you go slow, you can't complete it. We want to not bend our elbow, and we want to think as I flex my shoulder, my arm's getting longer like Inspector Gadget. By the way, when did that movie come out? What year did Inspector Gadget come out? Like 2001? 1997? With Matthew Broderick. That's an old movie right there. Okay, so I'm here. I can rest my forehead. I like to stick my thumb at the top. I'm not trying to make my arm as long as, I'm not trying to make my arm so long that it rotates my spine, but I want to protract my arm. And then I'm simply going to keep my arm nice and straight. My arm gets longer. Up, pause for a second, and then kill it back down. First couple reps, you're going to be like, oh, this is stupid. Then when you get to reps 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it feels phenomenal. Notice how right at the top, which is near maximal flexion, I'm going to get gravity fighting me. And what I like to do is when I get stuck, I try to fight for a millimeter more. So ready? Flex, get stuck, fight for an inch or millimeter more. That's the magic. Flex, get stuck, fight for a millimeter more, and down. Now, when I'm doing that, when I'm lifting higher, you can extend your spine or your thoracic spine to get that extra little lift. That's the challenge, is flexing your shoulder, not extending your spine. So we're here. And of course, I could change the angle. I could go palm in. I could go palm back. Doesn't matter. I like neutral grip for this one. I don't have to go in a perfectly straight line. I could go straight out, almost like a dumbbell scaption too. I could go out more towards abduction. That's once again changing the angle. And notice I'm starting to lose range of motion, which I should. If I'm doing this low trap raise correctly, I should start to lose range of motion. So I'm going to do the other side. Okay. Pause at the top just slightly. Fight for more, and then kill it down. There is a speed that is good. Change the angle. About 5 to 10 degrees. Out. Oh man, I'm weak there. See, that's the beautiful thing about changing the angle. You might be a badass at 10 degrees, and you might be a chump at 20. You're moving from the shoulder and shoulder blade, not from the spine. Okay. friggin' awesome. My favorite thing in training is when I find an area of tissue or a range of motion or a part of a movement where I fall to pieces, because it's not necessarily that that was causing all my pain problems and issues, or that that is going to be the key to me never having pain, or the key to me being able to do 40 pull-ups. It's the fact that I just exposed a weakness, and if I start loading it, how could I not be a stronger, faster, better version of myself? Everyone will say you're only as strong as your weakest links, but then people don't go searching for those weakest links, and if they find them, they don't ever seriously train them. So 10 pounds, we can see, is more than enough. If I go to 15, I'm not going to flex my shoulder, I'm going to huck my shoulder. I know that sounds weird, but at a certain point when it comes to shoulder work, especially with dumbbells or even cables for that matter, you go from raising and lifting to huck. It's almost like you're trying to throw, right? It's almost like a bucket. If I have like a bucket that's half filled with water, I can pour it out. If I have a bucket that's really filled, I gotta kind of like yoink it out. Yoink, right? I gotta yeet it out. So same thing, where there is this tipping point where now it's not dangerous or bad, and there is a time and place to yeet your shoulder up versus flex it. But for this low trap raise, this is more about finesse and control. We're not trying to develop rate of force production or to work on like an adjunct to like an Olympic lift or kettlebell snatch, right? So here, if you go too heavy and you start hucking or yeeting and not flexing and lifting, lower the weight and then just increase the reps. There are certain exercises where you're just always gonna do higher volume. This is one of them. This is one where you're never gonna be doing like 3 rep sets, stuff like that. So here, and then notice more tabletop position, and then just be aware of what your spine's doing. If it goes into extension, you're not a horrible person, but remember, this is shoulder lifting, not spine extending. And as you lift, a lot of people are going to have a slight bend in their elbow. Lock out the elbow, lock out the elbow. This is a straight arm raise, not a 90% straight, 10% bent raise. And I'm doing reps until I start to feel like my range of motion starts to decrease to a significant extent, where I can no longer get to the same height. That was close. You can see, was close to losing range. And there. So there was a noticeable decrease in range of motion there. So I can continue to rep, but since I'm not training for hypertrophy, I'm training strength. I'm not getting additional gains past then. Okay, other side. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. I hope these videos I hope you really like them. I've never done long format videos before where I've posted them. I've done plenty of Instagram lives, Facebook lives, but I've really been shy about going onto YouTube and doing these long 30-minute, hour-long videos because it's tough to do these unscripted. You're worried about if you're gonna slip up, mess up, screw up, if people are going to even be interested in watching when you've got no music, when you have no fancy cuts and AI and 7 seconds to keep people's attention. But I hope these videos really help you. I hope you pick up some cool exercises, some cool supersets. I hope they teach you and give you a lot of cool ideas. And I hope they are really enjoyable. So, and if you guys do like these videos, can you let me know by leaving me a comment if they help you out, if you enjoy them, what else you'd like to see. Throw down a thumbs up or a like, that really helps my channel out. And if you want to see more of these videos, go ahead and subscribe, because that way I know that this is worth investing my time in. I'm totally down to keep doing these. I just want to know that you guys are getting value out of them and that they're making a difference in your lives. You can see my left is losing range of motion way quicker. It's a shoulder lift, not a spine hitch. You'll be amazed how many people will move their spine to get the shoulder higher, or they'll bend the elbow. Okay, awesome. I could do another set there, but since this video's gone on basically for an hour, now I'm just going to finish with a little bit of a long isometric. So this will be the last thing. We're gonna grab a band here, 2 light bands. Let's see, 2 light bands. Got another band here, just ordered, and some new bands. Okay, all right, so last thing we're gonna do today, let's see if the angle's right here. Last thing we're gonna do today is we're going to hold an iso for nice and long. Gonna take 2 bands, gonna wrap them low, and then that should be a great day, straight arm strength day. So maybe some of you are going to try splitting up your upper body work. So the next upper body day I'm gonna do is bent arm strength. And I don't do every upper body day, bent arm strength, straight arm strength, but it does make it really enjoyable, and I found it helps keep me honest. And the straight arm strength days really have changed how I think about shoulder training, and it really shows you how trash your mobility is, how weak you really are. And I think everyone can agree gymnasts are kind of awesome. So I'm here. I'm going to get into a comfortable position, and then we're gonna hold the iso nice and strong. So I'm here, 3, 2, 1. And now we're just holding on. Bands are better for this type of isometric. Bands hit so differently than the cable when it comes to isometrics. Both have their value, but man, for yielding isometrics, there's something magic about the band. The way it just puts force into the tissue and the way it oscillates and moves and almost becomes an extension of your shoulder or hip or arm. Notice I'm messing with the height of my squat to keep tension. Oh, that sucks so bad. Okay, cool. Remember, stimulate, not annihilate. And this has been another Get Starch training session. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to me. I hope I taught you something. Hope you learned something. Hope you found something that's going to help you and make you better. If you like this video, drop a like. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment and make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.